Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicholas McDiarmid, publishing editor of Concrete Trends, and I'm sitting today with Nico Pienaar. He is the director of ASPASA, and he has agreed to interview for both Concrete Trends and for ACE Expos. And it's without further ado, I welcome Nico, who's going to tell us a bit of the background of ASPASA before we move on.
Thanks, Nicholas, and thanks for you guys for inviting me. It's a great honor. Yes, ASPASA used to be the Aggregate and Sand Producers Association. That's where it started off some 27 to 28 years ago. The person who started ASPASA was Sir Rupert Bromley. He started it, put it together because it was a body that consisted of regional little organizations. And I think for you to be effective, you need to become a national organization. In 2016, 2017, we started getting requests from other small-scale mines wanting to join ASPASA, but because the name was Aggregate and Sand, the guy said, no, well, we don't make aggregate and sand. We mine salt. We mine silica. We mine dimension stone. We mine bentonite. We mine, I don't know, there's a whole lot of guys. So we said, okay, let's drop that name, the name, but we keep the brand name called ASPASA. And we kept it, and we're running with that. The ASPASA is, I don't know if I should share with you, but ASPASA is part of the Minerals Council. The Minerals Council today is known as the old Chamber of Mines, which it was. It's now the Minerals Council. It's got a new lease of life. It's changed its whole package, and we've also changed our package. So otherwise you become outdated. And I serve on the Minerals Council's board. I also, at the Minerals Council, represent two other associations that also represent small-scale mining. The one is the Clay Brick Association, that look after the brick guys, and then the other one is the South African Diamond Producers Association, which looks after the small little diamond guys, not the huge big companies. So that's what we do. So the Minerals Council has been very forthcoming with us and saying that these associations looking after the smaller surface mines. We don't represent underground mines. So yes, we are scattered right throughout South Africa. Every province we are, because somebody's digging a hole. Yeah.
That's right. You mentioned recently that some of the surface mining represents some of the biggest mining operations on the continent. Is that right?
Yes. You must remember that aggregate and sand, if we go back to that portion, aggregate and sand is the most mined mineral in the world.
That's not something people know.
No, because every country that you know of where you have buildings or infrastructure, you have to build that with aggregate and sand.
Absolutely.
Cement on its own has got no value because you can't build anything with it. You have to mix it to get concrete. So when people talk about a cement road, I say, no, it can't be a cement road because it'll be white and dusty. It's a concrete road. It's the most mined mineral in the world, and the biggest mining house in the world is Lafarge-Holcim, which is very interesting. People don't know that either. They think, it's Anglo-American, but it's not.
But that, sorry to cut in there, but Nico, that's the other thing we know is that concrete, second to water, is the most consumed item or resource, if you like, in the world, which makes ASPASA a rather powerful association.
Yes, to a certain extent it does. We've got very, very good relationships with the regulator, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And, we represent, our role is a bit of a different role to what maybe the Minerals Council is. The Minerals Council is there to represent the big mining industry and the mining industry. So we give services like training, audits, health and safety audits, environmental audits. We help people with community problems, where they have interaction with community. We get involved in transport issues because remember, our trucks deliver aggregate and sand or dimension stone or salt, whatever. They share all of these things. So there's a lot of our industry's trucks on the roads. So we have these funny problems which
Yes.
the
Yes.
the big body. So we're not in competition with the Minerals Council. We're part of it. We add on to
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what you're describing there are the large volume that we might refer to as the secondary industries that arise from the primary industry you're representing, as you were saying, the trucks, the transport, all of those elements.
Yes.
Yes. Now, on that note, when we look at, concrete, those of your members who are on the sand and the aggregate side, those producers, the ones who make up, are they the core of your membership still?
At this stage, they the core. They the biggest at this stage. When I started in this industry 21 years ago, it was most probably at that stage the cement companies who had an aggregate division. And that's
Right.
changed dramatically. The biggest guys in our industry now they've got no cement, they've got very little interest in concrete. They're
Yes.
the biggest in mining.
Right.
And most probably the second biggest too. They build roads, a lot of roads, and these the first two top guys are on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
Got it.
So they're big companies.
Yeah.
So they've taken over from, in those days, the cement companies dominating the quarry business, if you want to call that.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
changed
It's
dramatically.
changed. It's
Yes.
changed.
And then
Yes.
there's a whole horde of smaller guys. If you add them all together, they're quite a substantial, family businesses, well run. There's some
Yes.
very, very, very
Yes.
well run smaller operations, and they are just unbelievable because they don't have the big infrastructures and head offices and all of that. So they're very well run.
And with that variety of membership, with very different operations, essentially, you have to really generate quite a lot of material, don't you? And you were
Yes.
talking, yes. Tell
Yeah,
us
yeah.
about just if you're interested, could we perhaps focus on the safety elements you've been focusing on recently for your members?
Okay, what we do is and we started this actually. Sir Rupert Bromley started with this, and we developed this what we call a health and safety audit.
Yes.
We have an external auditor who goes around to all our members' quarries. It's basically a compulsory thing. If you're a member, we audit your operation. Why do we do that? We are not there to give negative feedback. What we do is we tell the guys where they're not complying to the law. Okay, so we have got no right to stop them or change anything. So at the end of the day, we say these are the things that are wrong.
Yes.
They have to fix that. We do that
Yes.
once a year.
Yes.
The auditor goes around, so this guy travels a lot, and it's a legal compliance audit. So everything that comes out as the laws come out, we build it into the audit document.
Yes.
And what it does is it's a great benefit for the operation, and the guys are very fond of this. They get all worked up beforehand, but once the guys finish with them, they get a computer printout, which is on a stick, and it tells them where they're non-compliant.
Yes.
So when the regulator comes there, he has sorted out some of the non-compliance issues if they listen. Because often the guys say, oh, well, you're not going to do this. But then the regulator comes. The difference is when the regulator comes, what we call in the industry is a Section 54. And when the inspector walks in and he gives you on Section 54, in terms of the Mine Health and Safety Act, you stop immediately.
You cut operations.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Right.
So what our health and safety audit does, it prevents the Section 54 stopping the operation, because one day costs a lot of money.
Yes.
And it normally doesn't take a day. It might even take 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days.
Absolutely.
So if you take that, it's a huge cost. So we do that, and we also then also develop what we called an environmental audit.
Yes.
So we do that too, which we took the idea from the American the American Gravel Association, Sand and Gravel. It's huge in America, and they do what they call an about face audit, and they look at the environmental issues. And we've taken that, but we've also now converted that whole thing into a legal compliant audit. And again, somebody goes out and tells the guys, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, and maybe you should do that. We share, we build, we train, we educate, that's what we
Got
do.
it. Got it. And on that note, we are now in the middle, it seems, of dealing with the pandemic, the lockdown situation, and the return to work has been steady. And I'm wondering, how is that going for your members? How are things progressing?
Well, what happened with COVID-19 was that it was a bit of a shock when we all had to stop.
Indeed.
And, there was like, I think all of us, for the first 3 weeks, we thought, okay, fine, it's not too bad. Now, a few months later, we still things. What happened in the mining industry, which we're very, very proud and very thankful of, is that our minister, Gwede Mantashe, he went out and stuck his neck out and said to the guys that for this country to be saved, you need the mining industry to operate. Nothing else is going to save us. The other thing about the mining industry is that, remember, mines are normally used to testing for AIDS and HIV and all these tests. I mean, mines have been very, very focused. So we opened up long before, well, some of the places aren't even open yet, but we opened up long before. Our biggest problem was that the building construction industry hadn't opened.
Correct.
So it was no use mining stuff, crushing stuff, working on it, but you couldn't sell it. So we became part of a task team, what they call the COVID task team for the building construction industry, which is very interesting. And everybody, SAFSEC, Master Builders, everybody got together because we were probably the biggest supplier to the building industry and construction industry. We're part of that. And then they started pushing to get, what do you call it, the infrastructure development open, so that my guys can start delivering and supplying. At this stage, I get feedback from my guys. It's going very well.
It's going well. Good.
What we did is and we do it still every day. There's a pack of documents ago. We shared most documents that were there with them up front. And I'm told by even inspectors that when they rock up at a quarry and they see it's a ASPASA quarry, they know the stuff is in place.
Yes, that service you're providing your members, as you say, is so critical because it minimizes any chance of the loss of production and downtime, which is just, I mean, that can make or break a business, especially at times like these. On that note, but in terms of the experience you've had now and going into the supplying of the construction industry again, it would seem to me that you might have some lessons learned that the construction industry might learn from you with regards to managing the health and safety issues that have been added with the various regulations and requirements that the various lockdown stages require of us in the workplace. What have you found the most important things when managing the transmission of the virus and the testing? What things have come up for your members?
I think again we were fortunate because the mining industry is I don't know if it's the right terminology, is one body, which is the Minerals Council. And I can just tell you that the Minerals Council is still really the leader in putting stuff together. So we had guideline documents long before the mining industry could operate. We shared it on a daily basis with the members, and they implemented the stuff. And what was important for the mining industry was to get to the basics. You screen the people, you then, if necessary, test, and whatever, you go through the places, the hand washing, and that's normal. I mean, that's the president told us to.
Indeed.
But the guys started looking at it's unbelievable how creative the industry was.
And I think these are the important parts, isn't it? The creative responses.
Yes, they were unbelievable creative. They tell you stories you think I never thought about it. Then when I became part of the building industry's body, I found that the guys didn't, because the problem with the construction building industry is that they don't have one body looking after that. They separated.
They've
and
got
everybody.
CISA, they've got the CIDB, they've got EXA, they've got everyone. Yes, yes.
So that, I think that was the problem then. And I mean, I would, if I had to advise somebody, I would say, put it all together and have a federation which represents all these other bodies. You know, a federation, like you have trade union federations where there's different trade unions in, and they become part of the federation, which the Minerals Council does. It's not called the federation, but it's the Minerals Council. So,
but that's actually what you described when you were introducing ASPASA. It was a collection of separates, then into one, and now you're representing even the large guys, or at least the smaller diamond producers, the larger, smaller miners, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Indeed.
And you must remember, in the Minerals Council, you've got the diamond guys, the coal guys, the gold guys, the platinum guys. They're all in their little groups. So they have meetings together. So that's very crucial. So if you look at building and construction, you know, SAFSEC and BIFSA. I always tell the story. I used to work for BIFSA many years ago. I was the first industrial relations advisor to BIFSA, the Building Industry Federation. Now it's called Master Builders.
That's right.
We always used to have this problem when you're on a construction site. The one guy's working under civil and the other guy's working under building, and the wages are different. So we had strikes about that.
Conflict.
You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
It's a problem.
Now, there was something, you know, you mentioned assisting members when working in communities. This is a big issue for the construction sector as well. One of the issues that the construction sector faces is the working with the emerging contractors, making sure things work for them, and within a community, helping the community not feel dispossessed, or should I say, making sure they feel that they are getting some benefit from the activities around them. How have you found that in the more recent past?
What I think the problem is, if I can just go to the problem, then I'll come up with a resolution. The problem is, and I think that's a general problem between people, even husbands and wives, and communities and businesses. They don't talk to each other.
Right.
If you don't explain what's going on and you don't talk to each other, the community, I remember I was a trade unionist in South Africa, in the old South Africa, so I was checked by the security police in those days. Having an Afrikaans name and being a white, I was not very lovable. But anyway, what I learned those days, what I learned in those days, once you understand the other side of the story, it becomes easier. So what the communities are, what they are still, and some we're trying to work on it, is that they see a mine and they think there's a lot of money, and they want to be part of it. And there's people that go around and say they're stealing your this and that and so forth, your right to your minerals. Remember, because that's why the Mineral Petroleum Resources Development Act came in, which said that the mineral doesn't belong to you as an individual anymore. It now belongs to the state. That's why you've got a act, which is the Royalty Act. So you pay the government for minerals that you take out of the ground.
That's right.
And once you start explaining to the community that this is how it works, number one. Number two is, if you're taking people and you're employing people, why don't you employ the community's people?
Yes.
Because I mean, in mining operations, we don't have all computer literate people and guys with engineers. You not need a driver or a artisan or something like that. And now what you do is, and I think it's the history of South Africa, is you bring people from homelands and you let them work in the mine. Not in our industry. We use the locals. So when we're in a town and we're near a town, and it's the local people that work there. So it's easier for us. The problem is if you bring in outsiders, but your local people haven't got jobs and they're dying of hunger. I think that causes conflict.
Yes, indeed, and you know that the remedy being communication and understanding what's actually being perceived and resolving that is an ongoing thing. And I think that message, you know, you say they should talk to each other, but wouldn't it be interesting if our mining community could share those experiences with the construction industry, because of course they're experiencing that and they know that. But because of the very specific, for example, the Royalty Act, as you say, the fact that we're paying the government for that, understanding that construction is not just that there's always work to be done in order to benefit, and this is how we wish to actually involve you, is an important message. And I think things are improving, but I'm just I'm getting my mind together because I've been informed we're about to run out of time. And you have so much to say, and there's so much to learn from you. But in the short term, I want to know from you how you feel we are doing economically and what we need to do to reinvigorate our economy at this point.
I think it's two simple steps that we have to do. We have to make the laws a bit easier for businesses to start. I'm not saying take all the laws away. I mean, if you take labor law, it's very complicated. I mean, our law was based on the Canadian labor law.
Right.
I studied it at that stage. I was one of the first guys to study it under Vian.
Okay.
So I know that it's very complicated. That's the one thing. The other thing is that for a country to be successful, you need infrastructure.
Yes.
You need dams, you need roads, you need buildings, you need police stations, you don't need so many soccer stadiums.
Yes.
That was great, but they're standing in their white elephants these days. But you need housing. So I think if you could sort those two things out and you focus on infrastructure development, and there's a lot of jobs in infrastructure.
Absolutely.
I mean, from mining to building to whatever. It's a huge industry. So I think if I had to say there's two things, those are the two things I would do. Nothing fancy.
Nothing,
no diagrams and rough and funny stuff.
Got it.
Just
Got it.
basic.
Yes, absolutely. And from a lot of the CEOs that I speak to, one thing they're referring to a lot is a desire for more certainty in various markets. Tell me what you would like to see from government in that regard at this point.
I think in the mining industry, we've got changes to mining legislation. The acts are all in the process of being changed. And you want to know if you've got a mining license, you've got the mining license for 25 or 30 years to start off with, not for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. So they're talking about playing around with 5 years, because it takes a long time for a mine to establish itself. It's a huge cost. It takes a long time before they start making money after they've established it, because you put up plant and you do all these funny things that you have to do. And I think that's what the guys are looking for. So why are the guys mining in Zambia and in Africa and in Australia? Because there's certainty, there's legal certainty.
Yes.
And if you don't have legal certainty, then you tend to wobble. And people don't want to wobble.
No. And certainly not when you're laying out that kind of investment.
Yes.
Absolutely. So we need to get our investment grades back up. But I think, as you say, it's a common sense journey back to that point, or forward to that point, because change needs to come as well. And Nico, I think we're going to wrap it up now. I could talk to you for a much longer period, and we will chat again. And I thank you for your time. And if there's anything that you would like to communicate, just to let you know, we are now talking to a lot of the construction industry. A lot of your members will be watching. Are there any parting words you'd like to say just with regards to handling the next 3 months?
I think the next 3 months we just need to calm down, because I think there's a lot of people that are stressed. There are a lot of people that are uncertain, and I think it's crucial that we sort of look after each other in this as industry, and calm down and plan what we're going to do. The one thing that's definitely certain, what we did before now and what we're going to do after now, is two different things. It's two different things. But I must say, the way we're going to do it and the way we're doing it now, in my view, is much more productive.
Right. Yes. And that could have been a whole other conversation, which we will pick up next time.
Yes.
Nico, I would just like to thank you for your time, for your generous sharing of information and knowledge and wisdom. You are someone we all need and can learn from. And perhaps next time we'll talk a little bit about your trade union days. I think maybe that'll be a novel. But Nico, thank you for your time. You're always generous with it. And we wish you all the best in the near future and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.